So these are the people when new and random things happen and are not concerned. They're not running to you looking for an explanation about what the process manual say we should do. They're excited. So ask yourself next time you hire someone, is this somebody who is tolerant of ambiguity? Are they going to be able to exist in a maelstrom of uncertainty and find a solution? Because if you can find agile thinkers, you're a lot closer to creating an agile culture. The second question, bless you, that we're thinking about at the moment is, well, what exactly is doing work in the 21st century? I mean, it's not enough just to digitize your processes. We're starting to try and understand what actually is creating value now that we can automate so many things. This, believe it or not, is a call center at Airbnb. Now, when you look at this picture, you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone that looks like they're doing any work whatsoever. I'm intrinsically suspicious of all hipsters, so yeah, I would probably let this one go. The reason why I think people are playing around with the idea of the office now goes a lot deeper than just trying to create cool spaces to make young people happy. Just recently, IBM announced something quite shocking. They're going to end their working from home program. Now, just think about what that means. IBM was one of the first companies in the world to put remote terminals at home. In fact, at one point, they had over 350,000, or 40% of their workforce, not working in an office. Now they're going to stop it. And the reason for that is that they've realized is that while people can be productive at home, they won't necessarily be innovative. And that real innovation comes from small teams, co-located in one place, creatively solving problems. So what we're starting to understand is that really doing work in the 21st century is not about following a process. It is about connecting together in small groups to solve problems. And the tools that we're using to solve problems is changing. It's no longer, Excel and email and kind of the tools of the 20th century. Increasingly, we have to be able to work with data, because data is where all the intelligence of the corporation actually exists. In preparing for this talk, I interviewed some of the Quickbase customers. I had a great chat, actually, with Michael Wacht from Helm. And he had a great metaphor, which I loved, which was, he talked about the data whirlwind, this confusing maelstrom of Excel and Post-it notes and the chaos of how almost a process comes together. But he says he loves this because only by observing that whirlwind do you start to see where order becomes emergent. And you can start to see the smart ways to solve problems and create process. And then that can be turned into a Quickbase workflow. So the most agile processes, I believe, in the companies of the future are emergent. They're not top-down. They're not designed by experts and boards and management consultants. They're designed by the people who are closest to the customer and to the work itself. So this is, part of a much bigger trend that's going on, which is leading us to question the tools of the 20th century. Email is a disaster, let's be honest. Who hates email? Yeah. Can you imagine if you got rid of email tomorrow? What would you even do? It's really extraordinary. You get to the office, there's no email there. And you go, wow. It'd be great till about 11 a.m. That's when you start to feel a bit paranoid, right? Because have you noticed people come to the office, they're kind of a bit jived up, they've had a few cups of coffee, they're feeling mischievous. What do? They send those emails. You can always spot them. If there's more than 5 people on an email, you know it's not about information, right? It's a weapon. Somebody's causing trouble. Because you're looking at that and go, why are there 5 people on this email? I mean, if there's 5, why not 7? Why not 10? Who's been BCC'd? Who the hell even thought up BCC? I mean, think about it. What constructive purpose does it have? When has it ever been used for anything in your company other than pure evil? Isn't it any wonder that people are playing around with things like Slack? And now even Microsoft now has their own version of Slack. So if they're doing it, it's becoming mainstream, right? So there's even a plugin for Slack. Do any of you use Slack? Okay. So have you seen this plugin called Niles? It's really cool. You know, there's always people in your company who ask you the same stupid questions all the time. Have you noticed this? Right. So Niles is a new plugin for Slack. It just monitors those interactions. It notices if the same people ask you the same stupid questions. After a while, it just responds for you. It's great. They're happy, you're happy, no one's any the wiser. I love the future. The third thing I would say is that if you're going to get people to change, you can't tell them to change. You know, shifting old cultures is not easy unless you can have fact-based conversations about culture. I mean, the former head of Netscape, Jim Barksdale, famously said, look, if we have data, let's look at the data. If all we have are opinions, let's just go with mine. And you hit this all the time in companies. You know, people will not change their behavior unless you present them with the cold, hard facts. And this can apply to anything. You know, I recently was talking to the head of shared services at Google. You know, Google provide all of these free perks for their employees. And one of the reasons they provide snack bars is they notice that at snack bars, people that don't actually know each other or don't work on the same teams often have these wonderful creative collisions when they're both getting some candy or some food. But there were some unintended consequences of this program. People started putting on weight, basically. And now most companies would just cut back on food, but not Google. Oh, no. They brought in anthropologists and psychologists and psychiatrists. And I mean, they started measuring the distance between M&M jars and people's desks to see if there was a correlation. They've got too much money. So what they decided to do is rather than cut back on food, they ran psychological experiments. They put the healthy food in these clear jars. They put the unhealthy food in these bizarre Lego containers. The water was now at eye level. If you wanted a soda, you basically had to dislocate your shoulder. It was right at the back of the fridge. You had to really want it. Now, what they observed was in the first 7 weeks of running this program, Google employees in the New York office ate 3.1 million less calories from M&Ms alone. Now, I'm not recommending that you start to count all the cookies in your cafeteria. But if you do feel that there is aspects of your culture today that need to change, start by collecting data. Because only by collecting the data and finding ways to visualize it that are powerful and narrative can you get people to change. One of the best examples of that is actually a story that comes from 1855. This is one of the world's first infographics. It was created by Florence Nightingale. Can you believe that? She wasn't just a humanitarian, she was the world's first data journalist. Now, if you know your history, 1855, Britain's fighting a war in the Crimea against the Russians. It's not going so well. The British want more soldiers and ammunition to boost the effort. She said, you know what? Build more hospitals. They said, you're nuts. She said, look at the data. They said, I don't want to look at the data. She said, fine, look at a picture. She created this polar area graph, and you can see it shows that more soldiers were dying as a result of poor sanitation than enemy fire. Totally changed the culture and the strategy of the British Army in that war. So when you think about what the company of the future really it isn't about having a cool new office or a new upgrade of your technology infrastructure. It's actually about figuring out how we can build a cultural operating system that allows your people to thrive. This kind of movement around citizen development is so powerful because it goes to the heart of the new ways that we are working and solving problems today. So to accelerate that process, seek out other agile thinkers to join your organization, to join your team. Find people that can tolerate ambiguity. Challenge the tools you use, you know, all the tools you use in order to be more productive. And use data to hack your culture. Here's something you can think about to do in the next few weeks. Try to figure out what a high-performing team in your organization really is. I mean, if you can brainstorm with them about how you can actually collect some of the data and track the way they work and visualize that in ways, you can start to build up a pattern of what a high-performing team in your organization looks like, which will really help if you want to start scaling that up. Here's a mind grenade for you to think about. Who are your best people? Like, what makes them tick? Are these generally people that follow all the kind of guidelines in the employee handbook? Or are they generally the people that know how to route around them? Do they know how to get around the process in order to solve problems for your customers? What does this say about your culture? What does it say about you?